The Menendez brothers are now one step closer to getting out of prison. The Los Angeles District Attorney formally filing his recommendation Eric and Lyle Menendez be resentenced. The two are currently serving life sentences after being convicted for killing their parents in 1989. DA George Gascon saying new evidence is casting the trial and verdict in a new light, adding he believes the brothers are no longer a threat to society. Here with us now is legal analyst and trial attorney Misty Marris. Always a pleasure, my friend. Thanks for coming on. Let's talk about this 57-page filing. Covers the good, the bad of these brothers behind bars for about 30 years now. How persuasive could this argument from Gascon be moving forward, Misty?
So Gascon is basically laying out the argument for resentencing. Remember, this is the district attorney's recommendation that the Menendez brothers be eligible for parole. Their original sentence was life without the possibility of parole. Now Gascon is saying the office is recommending that not only are they eligible for parole at some point during their sentence, that they're actually eligible now. So what this motion is laying out are the factors that relate to that analysis the court will take into consideration for resentencing. Large part of this motion is dedicated to the Menendez brothers and how they acted behind bars, that they were model prisoners. Rehabilitation is a main factor in that analysis. Other factors are, did they experience emotional or physical abuse that was not brought forth in the courtroom at the time? Would this case be looked at with a different lens today? Would the sentence proportionally be different than other cases with similar sets of circumstances? So that's everything that's laid out in this motion. And ultimately, prosecutor just makes a recommendation and a judge will make a decision.
The brother's attorney and, of course, a frequent guest on our network, I know you've worked with him too, Mark Garagos, he says he wants to see them out before the end of the year. I am curious here, Misty, how likely is it that that's going to happen?
I think this is the first step in a longer process, and there's a reason for that. Because first, we have this motion. Second, the judge is likely, now keep in mind, the judge could just grant the petition. The judge could say, okay, it is so unlikely that that's going to happen in this case where there are actual people in the prosecutor's office who are not supportive of this decision, where there are family members, specifically Kitty's brother, who are contesting the prosecutor's decision of who would be a victim in this case and would have the right to speak. So the judge is likely to hold a hearing. When the hearing is over, the judge can either decide that day at the hearing that he agrees or disagrees, and say he agrees, hypothetically. Well, the next step is they're eligible for parole, but the judge doesn't make the decision about whether they're released. Now it goes before the parole board. And then the parole board goes through their process. And then ultimately the governor, Gavin Newsom, has to sign off on it as well. So we're already in, the dates are slipping by, but we're already at the end of October.
Right.
The end of the year is a very ambitious timeline.
So there's a lot of support from the Menendez family when it comes to releasing the brothers. However, there's Uncle Milton Anderson. He's filed a brief against the DA's recommendation. His lawyer joined our Ashley Banfield. He shared his doubts about the allegations that their father sexually abused them. Here's what he had to say.
What I know is that Milton Anderson stands firm in his belief that he doesn't think that Eric or Lyle were molested. He believes that the motive for the murder was absolutely greed, and that the murder was only committed after the brothers learned that they were going to be taken out of the will, and that they killed their parents because they wanted to still be able to inherit millions of dollars.
Now, that was Milton Anderson's attorney. How strong is this new evidence in the case, Misty?
So one thing that Milton Anderson and his attorney have said is that they're going to question the veracity of this note that is the new evidence that Eric Menendez wrote to his cousin. And they're going to challenge when that note was written. According to the defense, the note was written before the killings occurred. So it corroborates Eric and Lyle Menendez's allegations of abuse by their father. But they're going to question whether or not that is the case. Now, all of that matters in the sense of basically taking this from a killing of special circumstances down to murder, making them eligible for parole, as opposed to the legal theory that actually got them convicted in their trial, which is this was motivated by financial, wanting to get the money from the father and killing Kitty, the mother, as well, so that they could inherit this money. So all of that is going to be something the judge can dig into at the hearing, specifically Milton being a victim in this case, meaning his sister was killed. His voice will be heard. And certainly that's another aspect that I imagine the prosecutors who Gascon already teed it up. He said, there's people in my office that don't agree. They're likely to be digging into that theory as well. So that's all something for the judge to weigh, keeping in mind, this is not to overturn the verdict. This is to resentence, which is a different set of factors, specifically in California, which relates largely on whether or not the Menendez brothers are a threat to society. So it's a little bit of a different argument.
I'm glad you showed us the difference between overturning and resentencing. That is such an important factor in this case. We love when you break down these cases for us. Misty Marris, thank you so much.
Always a pleasure, Hannah.